Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Hans von Ohain? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the incident, then offer my analysis. Hans Christopher von Ohain was born in February 1989 and grew up in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. He was raised by his parents, Chris and Pam, and had two sisters. Hans graduated from Sycamore High School in Montgomery, Ohio, which is just northeast of Cincinnati. In 2011, he graduated from Ohio University with a bachelor's degree. During his time in college, he met a woman named Nora Bass. They moved to New York City, where Hans worked as a recruiter. In 2018, he joined the Marine Corps Reserve. That same year, Hans and his wife moved to Denver, Colorado, where Hans continued to work as a recruiter. After this, they moved to Evergreen, which is a small town 28 miles west of Denver. In December 2020, Hans found a job as a recruiter for Tesla. In July 2021, he and his wife had a daughter named Ray. As Hans raised his family, he was a particularly dedicated employee of Tesla and really believed in their mission. He specifically liked the idea of making autonomous vehicles available to a larger number of drivers. As far as his thoughts on Elon Musk, Hans believed he was a brilliant man who would make driving safer for everyone. As part of his commitment to Tesla, Hans purchased a black 2021 Tesla Model 3. Because he was an employee, he received the full self-driving feature at no charge. At the time, the price of that option was $10,000. As it turns out, free may have been far too expensive. Now moving to the timeline of the incident. On May 16, 2022, Hans was driving his Tesla Model 3 westbound on Upper Bear Creek Road in Clear Creek County, Colorado, just west of Evergreen. A friend of his, Eric Rossiter, was in the passenger seat of the vehicle. The men were returning from playing 21 holes of golf, and it was dark outside. When Hans was just west of Murphy Road, his vehicle continued straight as Upper Bear Creek Road turned to the left. After leaving the pavement, the vehicle slammed into a tree and burst into flames. Eric was able to escape the wreckage and tried to extricate Hans from the vehicle, but there was nothing he could do. Emergency responders arrived at 9:19 p.m. There was nothing they could do either. Here is what the authorities found during the course of their investigation. Hans died from smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. Thousands of lithium-ion battery cells made the fire particularly formidable. One officer said that it was one of the most intense vehicle fires he had ever seen. It appeared as though Hans was alive after impact. If he had exited the vehicle, he would have probably survived. Investigators were not able to determine why Hans did not open the driver's side door. Both Hans and Eric had been drinking. Hans had a blood alcohol level of 0.264, more than 3 times the legal limit for driving. Eric had a similar blood alcohol level, but he managed to escape. After the Tesla collided with the tree, the wheels of the vehicle continued to spin. There were no skid marks leading up to the site of the collision. It appeared as though Hans never activated the brakes. Due to the fire, no data were retrieved from the Tesla Model 3. There really wasn't much left of the vehicle other than a metal shell. Tesla vehicles transmit data, but in this case, no data were transmitted due to the remote location. There was no way to determine if any driver assistance system had been active at the time of the collision. However, one had been in use at least 30 seconds before impact. The type of feature was unknown. It could have been autopilot or full self-driving. Autopilot is designed for use on limited access highways. Full self-driving is designed to control the vehicle in a wider variety of scenarios. As I mentioned, the collision occurred when Hans and Eric were returning from playing 21 holes of golf. According to Eric, during the afternoon, when they were on their way to the golf course, the Model 3 suddenly swerved off Upper Bear Creek Road. This is the same road where the fatal collision later occurred. Hans told Eric that the vehicle did that every now and then. Right before the fatal collision, Eric said that he remembered Hans saying, "Oh blank," The next thing Eric remembered was waking up in the passenger seat. Eric told first responders that Hans was using an auto drive feature on the Tesla, and the vehicle, quote, just ran straight off the road, unquote. During an interview with the media, Eric said that he believed Hans was using full self-driving. This is notable because, if true, this incident would represent the first known fatality involving that specific driver assistance feature. Ultimately, investigators determined that alcohol played a part in the fatal collision. They could not determine if any driver assistance system contributed in any way to the tragedy. Hans von Ohain's wife, Nora Bass, filed a lawsuit against Tesla, claiming that the company wrongfully caused the death of Hans, designed a defective vehicle, knowingly released a dangerous autopilot system, and failed to warn anyone about the danger. Tesla responded by denying any wrongdoing. They suggested that Hans may have used the Tesla Model 3 in a manner other than which it was intended, or in a manner that could not have been expected. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Tesla has drawn some negative attention for its driver assistance features. In April 2024, the federal government released a report indicating that the Tesla autopilot system was involved in at least 13 fatal crashes, which killed 14 people and injured 49 people. Tesla owners have complained about various problems with the driver assistance features. For example, slamming into parked emergency vehicles, sudden, unnecessary, and unexplained braking, failing to detect markings on the road, stopping short of stop signs, driving right through stop signs, suddenly veering off the road when markings on the road were not clear, driving into curves at high speed, and deactivating in the middle of the curve. The autopilot and full self-driving features were not designed as a substitute for a driver, but the names could lead someone to believe the vehicle is supposed to drive itself. Autopilot sounds like the vehicle is equipped with an automatic pilot. Full self-driving mode is even more suggestive of a vehicle controlling itself. Can drivers really be blamed if they look at that name and imagine the vehicle will fully drive itself? This has led people to accuse Tesla of misleading vehicle owners. For example, California state regulators accused Tesla of false advertising as far as both autopilot and full self-driving systems. Specifically looking at the full self-driving mode, if it is not designed as a replacement for the driver, why would someone pay thousands of dollars for the feature? This is more like full money removal mode as opposed to full self-driving mode. Now, in the case of Hans, he didn't have to pay for the full self-driving feature, so one can understand why he wanted it. He was probably excited about using cutting-edge technology and liked the idea of contributing data to help make the system better. Item number 2. When looking at the collision in which Hans was killed, a critical issue was the status of the driver assistance features. The case has attracted interest because of the idea that the full self-driving mode may have been in use. It would appear as though Tesla is disputing this assertion. Referring to the case, Elon Musk posted a tweet which read, quote, "He was not on FSD. The software had unfortunately never been downloaded. I say unfortunately because the accident probably would not have happened if FSD had been engaged," unquote. This is a curious assertion considering the evidence to the contrary. For example, Hans had a purchase order indicating he did have the full self-driving feature. His wife Nora indicated that Hans used full self-driving everywhere he went. Eric thought that Hans was using the feature immediately before the collision, and another friend of Hans, someone he knew from the Marines, said that he remembered the vehicle had the full self-driving feature enabled. In my opinion, it is reasonable to believe that Hans was using full self-driving. One could argue that the vehicle also had full self-destruction mode active. It conveniently destroyed all the data which could have revealed what happened. Item number 3. Even if Hans was using full self-driving, in the vehicle owner manual, Tesla makes it clear that the feature may not function properly under certain conditions. For example, on roads that have a lot of curves and on narrow roads. Tesla maintains that drivers must stay engaged and ready to take control of the vehicle at all times. Furthermore, the company will not be responsible for drivers who operate the vehicle while intoxicated or while distracted. Item number 4. Who was responsible for this fatal collision? Here's what I think happened in this case. This is just a theory, my opinion. Hans was excited to have full self-driving mode in his vehicle and viewed himself as a technology pioneer. He was leading the way to safer roads. Unfortunately, Hans had too much faith in the technology. He did not appreciate its limitations and did not follow the vehicle owner manual. Hans intentionally became intoxicated when he was playing golf, believing that the full self-driving feature would be able to drive the vehicle. Instead of making the roads safer, Hans was using the technology to drink and drive, and to avoid the consequences associated with that criminal behavior. As he was driving on Upper Bear Creek Road, the vehicle approached a curve to the left. The full self-driving mode deactivated, or it misinterpreted markings on the road. Either way, it was the responsibility of Hans to take over, but he failed to do so. The vehicle never swerved violently to the right. Rather, it just continued straight off the road. Unfortunately, this was dangerous enough. The Model 3 slammed into a tree and burst into flames. Hans was too intoxicated to exit the vehicle and died in the fire. If Hans had survived and Eric died, Hans would have been arrested and convicted of manslaughter. Hans was not a victim of unsafe technology. He was a victim of his decision to consume alcohol and operate a motor vehicle. Item number 5. Tesla is not the only company that offers driver assistance technology, but they do tend to push the limits more so than other vehicle manufacturers. This has led to accusations that Tesla is reckless. I think they have taken some chances, and their driver assistance technology is far from perfect, but the main problem they have is the fact that humans operate vehicles. I think this is a training issue more so than a dangerous technology issue. Consider how commercial aircraft are operated. There are all types of automated features in those airplanes that assist pilots, but the pilots understand that the technology is designed to do just that. It is not there to replace them, rather to improve their performance. For example, to warn them when they may have missed something like failing to deploy the flaps on takeoff or landing, or accidentally allowing the aircraft to approach stall speed. Motor vehicle drivers do not receive training comparable to pilots, yet the technology in cars is becoming more advanced. Responsibly using driver assistance features does improve safety, but the key word is responsibly. The bottom line is that motorists are willing to endure a certain amount of risk, and they tend to gravitate toward that risk even when it's completely unnecessary. For example, a 1996 study by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration indicated that when airbags first came out in vehicles, seatbelt usage temporarily declined among certain groups of drivers. Airbags are not a substitute for seatbelts. Rather, they work in conjunction with seatbelts to enhance safety. Similarly, driver assistance software is designed to work in conjunction with a responsible driver. Now moving to my final thoughts. Hans von Ohain thought that he was helping usher in a new age of road safety by using driver assistance features. In a sense, he did, just not in the way he thought. Hans reminded people that misuse of technology is often more dangerous than the flaws in the technology. Every time software is designed to protect people from themselves, human beings find a way to defeat it. Those are my thoughts in the case of Hans von Ohain. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They consistently generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.